special, incorporating sports vision and performance into your practice during the COVID-19 pandemic. Really excited to have our moderator, Jim Slattery, here with us from eyewear. Jim, how's it going?
Excellent. Thank you for inviting me. I was happy to stand in for Mike. I'm sad that he's not able to be with us today.
Yeah, so yes, Mike Vitale could not be here, but Mike speaks very highly of you and said you'll do an excellent job. So we're looking forward to you conducting the conversation. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to turn it right over to you.
Thanks, and thanks to everybody for joining us today. Mike Vitale, as I mentioned before, he's the Vision Council's Senior Technical Director, Lens Lab Division Liaison, and he asked me, albeit a bit late, to stand in for him. So I hope I do a good job, being that this is my maiden flight. Mike and I are part of the ASTM team of industry experts on the F08.57 committee. We're tasked with the ongoing development of national standards that apply to sports and recreational protective eyewear. ASTM is accredited by ANSI to develop those standards in this arena. Over the past 5 years, it's important to note that the ASTM F08.57 committee has been publishing new standards for eye protection on specific sports. As for me, I have been fortunate to work alongside some of the most influential pioneers in sports vision. I'm going to date myself since the early 1980s. Currently, I'm proud to work at eyewear Eyewear and with Shaquille O'Neal in our protective eyewear division. So today our conversation will explore ways to serve the needs of all athletes and active individuals of all ages. This includes the necessary equipment, new technologies, tailoring eye exams, and the importance of prescribing the right eyewear for sports and hobbies as it relates to safety and performance. The importance of this topic is magnified as we in the eye care community are motivated to spread the awareness of this importance in the sports vision category as we transition to recovery during the most challenging times caused by COVID. So let's get started. Our panelists today are Dr. Jared Davies and Dr. Jennifer Stewart. They too are experts in the field of sports vision. Dr. Davies, can you tell us about the International Sports Vision Association and why the current landscape is so important as it relates to sports vision?
Sure. So the International Sports Vision Association started about 4 or 5 years ago with a group of us that wanted to develop an association specifically geared towards sports vision. It has grown every year. We have an annual meeting every year in February that we invite different vision care professionals, coaches, athletes, anyone that wants to come, athletic trainers, to try and have some camaraderie amongst the different professionals and basically link each other together so that we can all grow with each other. Our meeting next year is in February as well. There's information on our website, which is sportsvision.pro. We have members from, I think, 17 different countries now. So it's growing very quickly.
Dr. Stewart, I'd like to bring you in and have you introduce yourself. Can you tell us how you are involved with sports vision and your background, and how you perhaps have modified your practice during these challenging times?
Sure. Thank you for having me, everybody. I have a private practice in Norwalk, Connecticut. Terrence and I are neighbors, go Norwalk. So we should be doing this in the same room, but we're in the same place right now. But I have a 4-doctor private practice, and I also have a sports vision practice about 20 minutes away from my private practice. We are currently not open. We're figuring out our next steps. We're located in a facility with 2 hockey rinks, a gym, chiropractors, physical therapists. So we're just being a little cautious. So we have not opened yet. Connecticut was one of the last to open everything, but we're at a really good place right now. So we're hoping that everything continues to go our way. But we have not opened our sports vision doors at this point. But I'll talk, a little bit later probably about kind of some of the ways that we still are engaging our athletes while we're not physically open. I'm also part of ISFA. I am very honored. I was the latest inductee on the advisory board in February. We just got that in under the wire before the travel all stopped. This was my first ISFA meeting, and it was incredible. You know, I think a lot of us sometimes feel like we're an island doing what we're doing in the sports vision world, and you know, to be in a place with everyone doing the same thing, and to be able to meet doctors who have been doing it for a long time. And also I had the ability to co-present kind of a beginner's workshop, full day workshop, which we're doing again, kind of the nuts and bolts of how to do it. So to meet a lot of you, I think some of the attendees are on the call. I've had some emails from people, just kind of how to do it, how, you know, how do I start, you know, how do I market, all of these great things, but to be in a room with people who are learning, and then to go to the exhibit hall and just have everything in one place. So joining ISFA, it was the best thing I've done, and being able to be part of the advisory board. If you're not a member, you know, I strongly suggest you join and come to the meeting in February and sit in the lectures. We've got a great lineup planned. The website's great. Gary has done a great job with the website. And you're just going to meet a lot of people who are doing the same thing, and you'll realize you're not alone out there. So thank you for having me. I look forward to our conversation. There's a lot of, the numbers keep growing. I see numbers keep coming in. So thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to be here.
You know, when I started back in sports vision, like I said, back in the early 80s, it was fledgling, to say the best. Product was very clunky. Diagnostics were different. Today, Dr. Davies, how do you see people getting involved in sports vision? How do you see the investment that's necessary to become viable in being able to do the duty that we all need to do, which is to take care of the total needs of our patients?
Well, I started my practice 10 years ago, and I started with very little equipment. You know, most of what I was using was what we call analog or non-technical equipment when I was doing the sports vision training. Certainly you can start with what you have and connect with others in the Sports Vision Association, find out what type of testing you want to do with the equipment you have. But there is exciting times for sports vision, that we have a lot of upcoming technology, and there's a lot that's been done with vendors that will allow you to improve the way you test. So we use, in my office, we have tons of different technology, and obviously we built over the years and slowly built up to where we are now. But we have, for instance, the synaptic sensory station that allows us to analyze athletes. It's got a database of thousands. I think they're up above 15,000 athletes in that database now, where you can compare to. We have the right eye system that allows for eye tracking. We have fit lights in my office. All kinds of equipment that allow for training, strobe glasses. But again, we can't forget our roots, and can't forget that we have the expertise to do things in a way that other people don't. And even if you don't have the technology, there's ways of accomplishing those same type of activities without technology. And sometimes just using balls and lenses and prisms is very advantageous, because it's more open.
Dr. Stewart, you and I have had the pleasure of working together over the past several years, and I'm pretty aware of your take on the category, and you're all in. You have many hats that you wear, as we both know, between being an optometrist in private practice and being a trainer for hand-eye coordination, and also as a mom. So we've talked about creating that conversation. You know, when you look at best practices, especially as it relates to sports vision, it's a much broader opportunity. And I think many people are now getting on board with the importance of catering to that opportunity and interviewing properly, so people are more in the know of what is available to provide solutions for their specific lifestyles. And sports, and when it all started out, it was impact resistance and protection and heavy duty frames that look like bricks on our face and globs of gums as padding. But now product has really gone forward and it is sports specific. So it goes well beyond impact and it goes into other variances of hobbies, recreational activity, and hardcore sports. And team sports will come back, I'm here to say. It may take some time, but we'll muster through this. But Dr. Stewart, from your perch, how do you create that conversation?
So, I think I'm a little unique in that my private practice and sports vision practice are separate. So Performance 2020 is not part of my practice here at Norwalk Eye Care. So for me though, in my day-to-day, I get a lot of questions from optometrists who say, I want to work with athletes, but I might not be able to do what you do. And yes, we're all in. We started a separate practice, but I think ask every patient that walks into your exam room, even this afternoon, when we're done and we go back to our afternoon patients, ask patients what they do. And we know to do this, but we don't often, we're thinking about glaucoma and macular degeneration and all of these dry eye and contact lenses. And, I've got 15 minutes and I'm wearing a mask and I'm very stressed and I don't know how to do this, but ask every patient one question, what do you like to do? Do you play any sports or have any hobbies? And a lot of patients, especially if they know my background, they're like, but I'm not like competitive. And I said, well, it doesn't matter. If you move your body, you're an athlete. And you might not be Shaquille O'Neal, but if you're playing a sport, then we need to have a conversation about what you're doing. That might be the contact lenses you're wearing, the eyewear you're wearing. I'm very passionate about, educating patients that dress eyewear has no place in the field, the court, on the ice. I have a conversation at Norwalk Eye Care about crafting a specific solution for that patient because they are an athlete. And if you're a recreational bike rider, you're an athlete. If you play golf on the weekend or you play in a men's league for tennis, you're an athlete. And it doesn't matter if you are competing or you are professional. So I think we often think of athletes as competitive, and these people need to be competing, but most of the patients that you're seeing even this afternoon do something. And especially right now, people are super active because we don't have much else to do. So they might not be competing, but try and buy a bike right now. I mean, good luck finding a bike in your local bike shop. So people are doing sports, but they might not think of their afternoon bike ride as a sport. So, starting to think about patients as athletes differently. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised of how easy that conversation is. And you might not be Dr. Davies or I where you have any equipment like the sensory station, but just start talking about eyewear and having your opticians well versed in making sure that we're providing the correct eyewear and that the lenses are impact resistant and specific for sports. And once you start that conversation, you'll start to see how easy it is to become the expert. And then maybe you take the next step. And, like Dr. Davies said, a lot can be done with tennis balls and rock strings and heart charts and a lot of the things that we're familiar with from school, all the way up to the sensory station. But you don't have to start there. And I think that's what was my hesitation for a long time, was I felt I needed everything at once or else I couldn't do it. But everyone's doing it differently and we all have different levels. So, I think my first step for everybody would be to, kind of look at your patients as athletes and start asking good questions, find out what they're doing, and then start thinking about ways to help them solve problems with what you have available.
Now, when you look at that dynamic, how do you, Dr. Davies, start to market your services? How do you reach out to your constituency, to your patients, to the community to show that this is an important aspect of eye care? And how do you best communicate your role in providing solutions?
Sure. Well, like Jen said, I think it starts with just asking your patients in your current patient database or making it on a welcome forum type thing where you say, what sports do you play? What activities are you involved in? And redefining what you think sports is, like she said. I had a patient, one of my first patients that we did training with, he came in for a regular eye exam and he competed in shooting with a rifle a mile away. So he tried to put 5 bullets within a quarter size area from a mile away. So of course he needed different visual training than any other athlete that we've seen since. And you know, I've trained people that are professional badminton players. I trained people that are pickleball players currently. Pickleball is huge in Utah.
Huge everywhere now.
Yeah. Most of them do not look like your standard profile of an athlete. So, but we have a lot of pickleball players. I have a professional lacrosse goalie that we're working with right now. I have hockey players, speed skaters, which you wouldn't think vision would be as involved in that type of sport, but it is. So you have to redefine what.
Yeah, I'm an old broken down hockey player. I can appreciate that aspect of it, but right down to pickleball. You know, there's over 3 million people involved in pickleball coast to coast, and it's probably one of the best socially distanced activities out there right now. So these new emerging sports are very, very key, and that's why I wanted to know about how you guys advance that conversation, because whether it's pickleball or flag football or any number of new recreational things, they have specific organic ergonomics built into, whether it's the medicine and the lenses that need to be discussed or the frame ergonomics. This is a very unique opportunity for us to really drill into the lifestyle needs and how eyewear and lens technology can provide a whole new aspect to their individual games.
Exactly, and there's a lot of those athletes, for instance, the pickleball players, a lot of them are older, not wanting to wear contact lenses at this point, and they're looking for specific designed eyewear that will enhance their abilities in their sport, and they're super interested in making sure that they're at the top of their game, because even though they don't play on a competitive level necessarily, although I do have competitive pickleball players and pro pickleball players in my office too, but even the amateur ones, they want to be the best they can at their sport because they want to enjoy it for as long as they can. And as their vision function and their visual needs change as they age, they definitely want any option they can to enhance and improve. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities there. And we also have e-games athletes as well, so which again is an area that you wouldn't consider necessarily in a traditional sports vision office, but that's an up and coming area as well as it grows in the US. We have a university here nearby that gives scholarships for e-games. And so those players are looking for enhancement and sitting in front of the computer for long periods of time, different eyewear needs for those types of athletes as well.
As we go through this crisis, gamers as such spend a lot of time on their gadgets, and it's a highly competitive hobby, let's say, that has quickly turned into a sport. Do you find that walking outside the traditional sports vision conversation, I mean, blue light right now is a big topic, and it does apply to everybody kind of hunkered down on screens.
It does, yeah, and certainly a lot of those e-games athletes deal with dry eye, and they deal with problems from looking at a screen too long, problems in sleep patterns from looking at a screen too long. So there's a lot of considerations that go into what types of filters do you use for blue light, what types of dry eye treatments.
Yeah. Dr. Stewart, from the work that we've done, you know, one of my pet peeves is trying to get parents and kids that require vision correction really in the know when it comes to the difference between your everyday dress eyewear and performance/protective eyewear. How do you find your patients receiving that information and understanding the importance of the differentials involved in those two categories?
It's very rare that I have a patient walk in and they ask me for, they want to wear sports eyewear. I just don't think that the education is out there and the awareness is out there. So I think it is our job as professionals to educate our patients and their parents, that they should be wearing this. And, I mean, how many of us have seen kids that are 20, 50 that are playing baseball and they're like, nah, they see just fine. And, you're like, oh my gosh, you couldn't pass the DMV test. I always use the DMV as the benchmark. I said, well, you wouldn't be able to pass your test to drive a car. So what makes you think you should be hitting a ball or having, that impact without wearing glasses? And, kids don't complain. We know that. But, I think, my background helps. I can tell parents, I've worked with a lot of athletes, and first and foremost, correction is key. And we make a comprehensive eye exam part. We recommend, we don't require, but we recommend a comprehensive eye exam before we start any training at Performance 2020, because if you're not seeing as well as you can, the training, it helps, but you need to be fully corrected, both on the performance and the safety level. So, having a conversation with parents, I'm really honest with them. I'm very blunt, but I do it with a smile. So I think it comes across a little easier. But, if I have a kid who's 20, 30 and is playing baseball and they want to play in college, I'll say, it's not, no, I mean, you can't, you need to be corrected to even give yourself the smallest chance to do this. So, I always, have them read about, there's some great literature on baseball, especially about the average uncorrected visual acuity of a Major League Baseball player. It is not 20/30. So, these kids, we need to give them a chance, and you have to be fully corrected and wearing appropriate eyewear to do that. And, I tell them, I always make a joke, would you play baseball in flip-flops? And they laugh and they go, so why would you wear regular glasses to play baseball? And, I don't think parents are intentionally sending their children out there. They just don't know. I know that we understand footwear, but we don't understand eyewear, and we don't understand how that translates. So I think that's such a great step for anyone who's interested in sports vision, is that first conversation about protection. And you will start to build up that credential of a sports vision doctor, even if you're not doing the training and you don't have the sensory station and strobes, and you're not doing any of the enhancement. If you're having that conversation about performance and correction, which is in all of our wheelhouses, every single one of us has that ability in our exam rooms to have that conversation. It doesn't require anything extra, but having that conversation about protection. And, maybe your next step is reaching out to athletic trainers and physical trainers and building your network of people who are working with athletes, not even on the training side, but on the protection side. And, putting yourself out there as the go-to person for eye injuries, and, giving athletic trainers and coaches your business card and saying, if there's an injury, call me, here's my cell phone. I'm available 24/7. Making yourself part of this team of athletes. And, we talked about that. There was a great presentation at the ISFA meeting in February, and with an athletic trainer, and just talking about this wheel of people, and you're a cog in the wheel of who athletes are working with. And when you think about athletes today, I ran track in college. I was lucky that I ate dinner. I didn't have a nutritionist. I had a strength trainer who we'd go and we were like, yeah, we're not going to do that. But athletes today have a team, and, we are part of that team, and we should be part of that team. And that can be at any level. That doesn't have to be on the Performance 2020 level, but put yourself out there and get yourself involved in that conversation with parents and kids, and make sure the first step is that they're corrected and they're protected. And, making sure that, I say to them, it's not even on the performance side. It's, you don't want to be 20, 40 and playing soccer and you're not able to see what's coming at you. And, in the world of concussion, kind of having, putting it in that conversation of parents, you want your kids to be able to see so that they can see around them, and they've got better peripheral awareness, not from training, but just from vision. So if that's the first step that everyone on this call today makes, and goes out there and says, I'm going to be more proactive with every patient I see today on correction and protection, I think we've done our job here. And then, working on enhancements, the next step.
2 points to that too. You know, that's where the ASTM is so very important with the work that they're doing in evolving the standards. Just to use lacrosse as an example, you mentioned in our other conversations with Gary, he brought up, you know, concussions, huge topic that surveillance tells us a bit about how far-reaching this problem is. But the women's lacrosse, as an example, you know, they're evolving now. They mandate protective sports eyewear. They're fast moving now to helmets. It's important to be up on the regs because a lot of the kids, as team sports gets back into the game, they need to be outfitted correctly. So as eye care professionals, we need to advise those patients on the rules, and we need to be up on what eyewear is necessary that meets the standards. Do you find, I know that you dwarf me when it comes to digital, but do you find that social media and digital communication is working for you in getting that message out and to create a two-way path in talking to both parents and kids?
We should be better at it, but you know, we've done honestly, you know, everyone in the perfect world, we'd be great at it, but you know, we should be doing more of that. But you know, I think to a point, but I think the personal conversation for me is what really does it, is, you know, tailoring it to that patient. You know, I mean, it's great to build the awareness for us on social media, you know, putting pictures of athletes wearing it, but to say, you know, Mrs. Smith, your son plays lacrosse and this is what they need, I think that's going to be more powerful than anything. So for me, it's that personal connection and just being specific about what they need. You know, and just, you know, and to go back to Jared's comment about how different sports look, you know, I was thinking while he was talking about athletes, you know, one of our athletes was the parent of one of my hockey players. We have a huge hockey practice, you know, we have a ton of hockey and lacrosse, you know, we're in Connecticut. But we, you know, one of the moms was a dog agility trainer. So she asked me if our training could help her in dog agility. And I said, I'll figure out a way. So, you know, I saw there was a great question on there, you know, I'm kind of going off topic, but there was a great question. Do I need to know everything about each sport? And in a perfect world, yes. But, you know, I don't know anything about a dog agility training, but, you know, I learned enough to feel comfortable. And, you know, another piece of advice for everybody is don't feel overwhelmed, you know, just start small and start with one sport you might feel comfortable with and learn that. But, you know, athletes can look different. You know, we had a professional figure skater. I knew nothing about figure skating. So, you know, her needs are very different, but lacrosse and hockey and soccer are big ones for us. So, you know, having the conversation both on the eyewear side and then knowing how to identify those athletes for training. But, you know, I think the personal connection is still the biggest one. Social media is great to build up the brand awareness and, you know, kind of get yourself out there, but having, you know, making sure that every person in your office is well versed. You know, it's not enough for you to say, we're going to do, you know, sports protective eyewear for Jimmy. And then you go out and your optician is like digging around in the drawer and like takes out a pair, blows off the dust. And they're like, oh, we found our frame. You know, I think we have another one somewhere. Like, you have to have it seamless. You every step in the process has to be seamless. You know, your staff should be asking when an appointment is made, you know, make sure you bring all of your glasses, sunglasses, sports eyewear, supplements, and medication. So the patient goes, sports eyewear? Like, I don't wear that, but okay. So now it's planted in their head when they check in. Did you bring your glasses, sunglasses, sports eyewear, medication, supplements? Okay, second time when, you know, oh, my tech will say to them, I noticed you play soccer. What position do you play? Oh, you know, you're a goalie. Oh, Dr. Stewart has a background in sports visions. Not, you know, every touch in the office, you know, now I'm the fourth one they're talking to, and then the optician, it's seamless. So, you know, it takes time. It will not be this afternoon that it comes together, but start thinking about every touch point that your patients have in your office and have that conversation at every one of those touch points. So that your optician isn't like looking in the back for that box of frames that is a consignment that they found, and now that you have to make it seamless. So I think that will help. Sorry to long answer.
But Dr. Davies, wouldn't you agree? I mean, how do you integrate your staff in providing a part in playing that role to increase the awareness of your patient base?
We do some of the same things that Jen does with asking them questions about their sport, asking them about what position they play. She brought up a good point as far as not knowing everything about every sport. None of us can know everything about every sport. And
I know.
you certainly have people that will come in. You know, I had a scout for the Chicago White Sox come in and talk to me about one of his players. I don't know near as much about baseball as he does, and I don't want to know. I don't want to be the coach and take over his part, but I know a lot more about vision than he does. And so I can take the aspects of what he knows and translate it into what I know and understand the visual demands for that sport. But yeah, it all starts with asking questions. One thing we do in addition is we actually offer to any patient that is an athlete that if they're on a competitive team, we'll come out and talk to their team. And so we'll go and in any area they want, they can come into our office or we can go into their training facility and we'll sit down and we'll talk about things like protective eyewear, different lens options, specialty contact lenses, ortho K. We had a water polo team that half the team got fit in ortho K lenses because water polo doesn't really work well for eyewear. So you have to know your options with different sports, but you have to be willing to just put yourself out there and say, I'm available to talk. Another thing we do is we hang up pictures of our athletes in our office as well. So when they come into an exam room and there's pictures of athletes all over the walls and, you know, people that have said, thanks for helping me with my vision, Dr. Davies, that's a professional skier in one of our room. Every person that comes in that's a skier, when they see an Olympian up on the wall, they say, oh, what did you do for him that would be different than what I need? And then we have that conversation of what visual needs do you have in your sport?
I think that the example is well taken because especially now and the challenges that we face to not be on the bottom rung of healthcare, you know, as we all emerge into this recovery mode. I think it's important for people to understand why the individualistic needs of your whatever your recreational lifestyle is, that they need to be addressed on a one-on-one basis. So I personally feel that the way that you go about it is great, and to go outside of the office to create that message. I used to work with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Paul Berman for many years, and Paul was great at doing that, of moving beyond the office to go into the community and to talk to whatever it was, the Lions Club, boys clubs, girls clubs, but to network that message where you wouldn't think a strict eye care, eye health message was going to be resonating. But it worked, and it generated traffic back into the practice because people saw that to provide solutions to make them better at their game, whatever their game was. So I think that's a great opportunity for everybody to not just sit back and have them come, you know, the old field of dreams attitude of build it and they will come. I think that we have to, especially now, create that opportunity for them to understand what exists. So I wholly endorse that approach.
Hey, Jim.
That is something you can start right away too, even if your office is closed, because you can do webinars just like we're doing here. We did one with a premier soccer league that the coaches, we contacted the coaches and said, is there anything we can do to support your athletes during COVID or during this shutdown time? And they asked us to do a webinar. We did a webinar with all the athletes and parents just to provide them with information on eyewear opportunities and training opportunities and things they can do at home to start to enhance their vision. So it's something you can start right away.
Cool. Terrence, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, we got a really good question here asking what are the best brands and what are the accessories to stop vision.
I'm sorry, you patched out on my end. I did not hear the whole question.
We have a question here. Someone's asking, what are the best eyewear brands and accessories to have on stock in your offices?
Our panelists, Dr. Stewart, you want to try that one?
So I really like the Shaq eye gear line. I think just very different. We, like Jimmy had started off the conversation, we think of, the old way that people think of sports safety eyewear is goggles and like big honking, clunky, not really attractive eyewear. And I think now, it needs to be an accessory. It needs to be something that they want to wear. And what was interesting to me is, over the years, seeing kids that come in and they're wearing their sports eyewear as their primary eyewear.
Yeah, true.
And the first time that happened, a mom said to me, she's like, "Is it okay?" And I said, "That kid's protected all the time." She's like, "I don't know if I wanted school pictures, but so it's an accessory. It's sneakers. It's part of our wear." And I think now, especially with athleisure, being so popular, most people are not wearing formal wear. So for kids, it's part of their look. It's part of how they distinguish themselves, and adults. So I think the way that it has gone is colorful. It's colors that pop. You can have colors that match team uniforms. You have a college team that you like. There's all these colorful options now, and styles that look not sports eyewear that we have been used to seeing. So I think you're going to see some really great things as that changes, and as kids are more apt to wear them. And that this conversation, if we all do a really great job starting this afternoon with that conversation, and people will start to see people wearing them. And the best is when somebody comes into your office asking for it. I mean that's the best sale in the world is, Johnny on my team has these really cool glasses that he wears for soccer, and they told me they got them here. Can I get a pair? Of course. So it's a conversation we can feel good about, and that kids, and I say kids, adults are fairly easy, but we all have those kids that the parents got them the year before, and they're like, they just didn't wear them. They just didn't like wearing them. They didn't like the way they looked. So, having the newer options that look, I hate to say cool, but they, look sporty, and they don't look like what we've expected sports eyewear to look like. So, definitely check out Shaq Eye Gear. Really, really great stuff. And, just fun accessories that go along with it to make it more, not sports eyewear that we've all thought of.
Well, thank you for that. Dr. Davies, when it comes to the lens side of it, nowadays with the coatings and the new filters and how they're so proactive in making hobbyists and athletes better at their game. I mean, e-athletes and gamers and the options they have. You want to touch upon that, because it's a dual story. It's not only the frame, but it's the lens technology that really drives that side of performance home too, isn't it?
It is, and you certainly have to think about the safety aspect of some of the sports, but there is other aspects. We have a lot of mountain bikers in our area, and they want transitions, for example, because as it gets later in the evening, they want the sunglass to go away, and they don't want their glasses to be exchanged. We're looking at the Rudy Project line right now that is really popular with mountain bikers in our area. As far as lens coatings, they're looking for durability and scratch resistance in those areas. There's a lot of dust in the air when you're mountain biking. You need something that's really wearable and not going to wear out. And as far as the e-athletes, there is tons of different coatings and different filters that we use. We certainly consider different colors of lenses, depending on the patient and the athlete. Our shooters are going to want different colors, different sunglass options. So there's a lot of aspects you have to look at, from durability and scratch resistance to what is going to give them the best contrast sensitivity in their sport.
And this is the great thing about sports eyewear, because as we transition, I keep using the term transition to recovery, but as we reemerge during this crisis, the frames and the lenses and the designs of both can help provide additional performance and protection while you do your sport. Large coverage frames that provide a good ocular performance feature, basketed products that can keep particulate out of the ocular orbit but still give maximum visual acuity, and things down to anti-fog, because you seal up and you play sports and you sweat. Well, I think you have to be going about 20 miles an hour to get that backflow working to get the same air behind the lens, you know. So all of these pieces, like Jennifer was saying, and you were saying, they have to be available. They have to be known to your patients so they can see, wow, I can play better because I don't have to worry about these things that I've worried about in the past. I think that kind of communication, that kind of marketing is key now to making the category even more robust than it is, because we don't turn it enough, to be quite honest. You know, we almost wait sometimes for the question to be asked of us, but if we're proactive, I think it will resonate with our patients. Don't you think so, Dr. Davies?
And you bring up a good point with the fog. I had a snowmobile racer in my office that couldn't wear contacts, needed goggles for snowmobiling. We had to find the particular type of insert that would work in those goggles, make sure they wouldn't fog. And when you've got 2 layers of material there, it's really hard to get the right fit. So I had to do a lot of research myself on which would work best for him. So you're going to have those unique situations. You know, we have a lot of skiers that come in that want ski goggles with inserts because they don't enjoy wearing contact lenses. Yeah. Lots of different options you have to look at.
I also want to add, you know, kind of think outside the box of athletes as well, and think about the other patients that come into your office. You know, depending on where you practice, the military might be, you know, you might be in an area with a lot of military. You know, look at your local police and fire, and think about them. And you know, we might not consider them traditional athletes, but if you know, I can't think of anyone where vision is more important, and you know, protection and perception is more important than a fire or police. Actually, one of the athletes that we worked with, he was a hockey player, and his dad was SWAT. And they asked, you know, his dad said, "Do you think this would be something that would help me?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes." You know, unfortunately, you know, the city didn't have the budget to do it, but and they, you know, prioritize their son's training. But you know, look outside. You know, if you have a connection to, you know, your local police department, you know, maybe you can go in and talk about shooting, and you know, and it doesn't even have to be so specific. You know, I think we often get paralyzed because we think we should know everything about every sport. I couldn't walk into a police department and be an expert on shooting, but I can certainly look at them and say, you know, here's what you do. If I could make you have a little extra awareness or have a slightly faster reaction time, you know, in the sports world, that's going to be the difference. Maybe with winning a game, this could be the difference of saving your life. So, you know, and having our, you know, looking at armed forces, and depending on where you live, you know, we don't have military around here, but you know, you can look at police officers and fire and other special ops, you know, depending on where you are, about, you know, reaching out to them. You might have a patient you've been seeing for years who's a police chief. You know, next time they come into your office, you know, just bring it up casually and say, "I'm happy to come in and present." And that's how it starts. And you know, it was very hard for me in the beginning. You know, I said, what if people aren't interested? And you know, no one writes back to me. Well, it's going to happen. You know, you're going to send out 100 emails or call 100 people, but all you need is one. You need that first person who's interested, and you need to start that ball rolling, and you know, crafting the way you speak and the conversation you have, and getting confidence talking to different people. And I don't walk in there, you know, pretending I'm the SWAT master. You know, I couldn't have a conversation about that, but our role in perception and vision, we are the experts there. So thinking about what they do and having a conversation in our language about their visual needs. You know, you might have a family member who's a police officer. You know, use those connections and start having conversations, and then bring in the protection. But you know, really, you know, I hope that people come out of this conversation feeling more confident and just feeling that, you know, it's not the lacrosse player and it's not the soccer player and that's all I'm thinking about. You know, you might have very little interest in traditional sports. You know, Jared and I couldn't be living in more different places. You know, we have skiers here, but not, you know, I live in Connecticut, so very little. But, you know, look around and look at the sports that are popular, look at your patient base, and, you know, start to think about patients you know, and practice that conversation. So I think it really helps to build up your confidence. And you're not alone. You know, join ISFA. You've got great people to reach out to. You know, the conference this year. There's some great different things, you know, shooting and esports, you know, all these things that, you know, might be an interest of yours. You're going to meet colleagues who do that. And you know, if I had a skier come into my office, I would call Jared and say, I don't ski. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me? And there's a lot of us out there, and we all have different backgrounds and different confidence. So, you know, reach out to colleagues, join a community of like-minded people, attend meetings and listen, but think outside the box of what an athlete is. That's I think that's my biggest piece of advice.
When you look at the different type of sun protection that's out there right now, and you were talking about low light and bright sunny days, and the difference between polarized lenses versus non-polarized sunwear. Do you think that we spend enough time talking and profiling our patients to show them the benefits? Dr. Davies, do they understand, or do they really follow your lead? And do we talk enough about that?
I think we too often assume that patients know everything about sunglasses or know everything that we know. You know, most patients that come through the door have heard of polarized sunglasses or see polarized on the labels when they go to buy sunglasses, but they're not really totally sure what polarization even means. So it is a conversation you have to have, and an aspect that you have to consider what sport they play. Is polarization best for their sport? Is it going to enhance what they do, or is it going to take away from what they do? You know, yeah. And I would say it very much depends on the game they play. You know, a golfer that's trying to read the green, maybe polarization is not best for them because they can't see the reflections off the curves of the green. So you have to have that conversation and really educate them on what it means and not assume that they know.
Yeah, I picked on you specifically because I didn't think you were going to go to the golf game and reading the green, even though that was probably the best example. But I know, being a hack skier, it's difficult to see moguls sometimes with polarized, you know? So I think that it's very important as we get into this game deeper and we look to fine tune even the amateur, the casual athlete. It's important for them to know. I mean, knowledge is power, and especially now. So this discussion is so important to educate them, because you have the tools to be able to prescribe, you know, what those solutions are. So I'm glad that you touched upon that. Dr. Stewart, did you want to add anything to that?
I mean, how many of our patients come in and they, you know, think transitions, progressives, polarized? I mean, to them, those words are interchangeable or they are mixed up. I mean, I think it's every day. So, you know, I agree with Jared. You know, we assume that this is probably the biggest conversation I have with my optical staff often, is that we get used to speaking our language and we are the only ones that speak that language. You know, the average consumer does not know what transitions are. They think they're a no line bifocal. You know, we think, especially, and even patients who have been coming to our office for 20 years. So, you know, we have to really get better at that conversation. And I know everyone's sitting here going, you know, what do you do? See a patient for an hour and a half, you know? So it is hard. And, you know, I am not perfect at it. And I know when I'm on and I'm having good conversations, I see that reflected in my optical. And, you know, right now we're all coming off of, or most of us should be back, you know, a tough time. And if we can really, you know, have a 5-second conversation about prescribing specific eyewear and we see that financial benefit, I mean, it's a twofold win for us. Our patients are getting what they need, and we're having, you know, some increase in revenue in our optical. But I agree with Jared. You know, I think we assume too much that patients know what things are. And, you know, I live on the water, so, you know, people do know what polarized is, but I don't think they know why it's important to have polarized lenses. So, you know, I'm huge on scripting, but not being scripted. So I work very hard on having short bits of information that I say that are good for patients. And they're pretty consistent. My poor scribes that sit with me every day, I say the same thing often, but I work hard on making it very short and precise. I don't spend 15 minutes with diagrams and pictures of polarization. You know, I just make it very quick and to the point. And I think we can all do that. And, you know, it just takes practice, but I agree with Jared 100%. You know, if you said to a patient, you know, you need polarized lenses, and they're like, that sounds expensive. You know, but tell me why. Give me the why behind that. Give me the value, so that when I go out into the optical, it's not a sale. It's a continuation of a conversation. And Dr. Stewart said, I need this because I'm a boater, but she also said, I need a second pair because I'm a cyclist and she's a cyclist. And I personally don't like polarization for cycling. So Dr. Stewart said, I need 2 pairs. So I need 2 pairs. And here's why. So I think I agree, you know, having that conversation and being specific, and, you know, don't waffle, you know, don't, you know, I think you might need this, or, you know, be specific and be precise. We're professionals and this is what we do. And people want our opinion. They don't want us to be unsure. So be confident.
I think you make a huge point. As we wind down close to the end of the session, I think that the segue that you create is one to address, and the timing is actually right now. We shouldn't be apologetic for these suggestions, you know, and hey, let's face it, you know, it's expensive, and right now everybody's really sensitive about where we do invest our money. But at the same time, there are ways to, I think, explain the necessity. And Dr. Stewart, I'll ask you first, because I know we've talked about it. It's not about being apologetic or just selling that one solution and taking care of you know, refraction and frame and lens. It's also suggesting where your head should take you in looking at other options, and not to have a barrier put up because of overselling.
And, you know, I think, and it even goes beyond the exam room. You know, I know we've been getting questions about training, and the hour went really quickly, but, you know, I think looking at, you know, the whole package of what patients need, and that's exam, frame, lens, sport specific eyewear, at-home training versus in-person training. And, you know, right now it's going to look very different for everybody, you know, especially where you're living. But, you know, look at the whole athlete. And if you are doing training, or if you have any interest in providing training, you're kind of looking at how you're going to deliver that. And, you know, ask people, you know, ask us how do we do it. And, you know, right now, like I said, we're doing very little, well, no in-person training. I'm doing all in online or remote training with just a few select athletes. I honestly wanted to get my office up and running and make sure that everything was going smooth here before we got that up and running. Baby steps.
We're all going through that right now.
So, you know, for us, we are doing all of our training remotely currently. We use Synaptic. We've been utilizing the Synaptic app with our athletes, and with a combination of programs that I designed using, you know, kind of the going back to Jared's comment of analog, you know, Marsden balls and heart charts. You can get pretty creative. So we're doing a combination of that, but right now strictly at home. So Dr. Davies, how are you doing it?
So we have a little bit different case in Utah because we haven't had near as bad of numbers with the coronavirus. So we actually do have athletes coming in office. We're certainly limiting the amount of people that come into our office and trying to distance people. And it is interesting to do athletic training with masks on, I'll tell you that. But it is something where we bring people into the office right now. So.
Do you provide options to take advantage of value? I mean, certain frame and lens bundles or multiple pair bundles. Is there any way to create that value to pass along to your patients?
Well, first of all, I think you need to consider the fact that people spend a lot of money on their sports and their hobbies, and they're willing to spend that money. And if it's something you enjoy and something you feel like you need, you're going to want to do it. Whether it be the performance or enhancement training or eyewear, it's, you know, my son spent $300 on a pair of cleats for soccer. He's a competitive soccer player. I looked at that and thought, you are crazy. And he spent his own money that he, you know, because I don't play soccer, but most of the soccer players would say, oh, that's easily spent, you know, but it's one tool for your sport. Well, vision is a great tool for your sport, and cognitive abilities and vision training are a fantastic tool for your sport. Yeah. And if it can enhance the way you play and you feel better about how you play and compete on a higher level, anyone's going to want to do that. Certainly we provide options for packages and help people in this time, but you can't be afraid of saying that this is something that people want to do and let them do it. So we can't back off because of our own situation either. Jen's office is mostly closed right now. You know, we're struggling as optometrists in the nation, but not everyone's in that same situation. A lot of people are working from home. They work for tech companies. They have opportunities to do things that they want to do and are willing to spend the money to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You know, sports are expensive, and it's part of, you know, that package. And, you know, you just have to provide the value for it and provide the reason for why you're doing it and how it will help, but also on the protection side. You know, I mean, I'm a parent. I have two boys, you know, we're 4 and 7. If somebody says you need to do this to keep your child protected, there's no way I'm going to say no. So, but we just can't say, well, you know, your son should wear this for sports. I'm like, why? You know, if you said this is the best option to make sure that he doesn't lose his vision because of, you know, an issue, you know, if he's playing soccer or baseball, this is a way to not have a traumatic eye injury or to go blind. Well, yes, I will, you know, as a parent, I will do anything to make that happen. And, you know, we have you know, I'm in a very affluent area, and, you know, so the sports vision training often is part of, you know, they have private trainers and nutritionists, and, you know, they're seeing a chiropractor and a massage therapist and a tutor. So, you know, we're again part of this network. So don't think of yourself as this separate thing that they're doing. You know, look at what your kids are doing, or, you know, look at the team that they're working with and integrate yourself into that team. And, you know, through ISFA, I didn't even realize all of the people that are part of an athlete's team. And, you know, through some of the lectures at the meeting in February, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think to reach out to athletic trainers. It just was not in my, I was thinking coaches, but athletic trainers have such a intimate relationship with these athletes. So they need to be involved, and they're looking for, you know, somebody to help them too. So, you know, integrate yourself in their communities, but realize the value that you bring to athletes and the value that you bring to their families, and don't apologize for the price that might, you know, that might be a part of. And, you know, frame and lens packages for sports safety eyewear, they're not expensive. You know, they are not, they're less than a pair of soccer cleats. They are certainly less than my triathlon bike. So less than my weightlifting equipment. So it's just the price of doing sports, and we should make sure that's part of that conversation.
You know, this conversation can go into so many other areas. And you know, one of the other areas is even to look at ocular nutrition. You know, there's so many topics that we could delve into. Terrence, I'm concerned about the time because I see that the clock is ticking over here. So I'd look to you for some guidance on how we should go forward at this point.
Yeah, Jimmy, I really appreciate you turning the attention back over. This was a really good discussion. Dr. Stewart, I really appreciate the way you started off, saying that not to just look at this as someone who's doing competitive sports, but athletes. I think it really helps us to frame who this patient is. So there's a lot of good information. Jim, you really,
if you move your body, you're an athlete. You know, that's how I, you know, like to look at it, and just expand that picture of what you think a traditional athlete is.
Absolutely. And Jim, we want to thank you so much for conducting this this talk and being able to ask the right questions. And shout out to ISFA for participating. Gary, thank you so much for providing the questions. Dr. Stewart or Jared, did you want to talk a little bit? I know we said we'll touch on how we get some more information in February.
I'll let you, Jared.
Okay, so our next Sports Vision meeting is February 11th through 13th of 2021. We hope that COVID will be passed by then, but we're hoping to meet in person in Kissimmee, Florida, at the Embassy Suites. It'll be a great meeting. Regardless of what happens, we're going to have a meeting, so we'll figure it out as time goes by. But we've got great speakers lined up already, and there is information on our website at www.sportsvision.pro. We encourage you to join the International Sports Vision Association and start to network with other sports vision providers as well. It's a great time to join. Like Jen was saying earlier, if you have someone that comes in that's an athlete that you don't know what to do, there's bound to be someone in our organization that does know what to do and can help. And we're pretty good at networking with each other. And just like if Jen called me on a skier, like she said earlier, I would be more than happy to give her any information that I have and what we've done with our professional skiers. So it's a great organization to be associated with. There is a membership fee. It's much cheaper than most organizations. So just go to our website and check us out, and encourage you to join and join the network of people that care about sports.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that information. For those of you, this is your first time coming, we do coffee talk every single Wednesday. Next Wednesday, please join us again at 12:15. We're going to have Dr. Howard Purcell. He's going to be moderating a discussion entitled Open Your Eyes, What True Allyship of Diversity and Inclusion Looks Like. This is going to be a very interesting discussion where we look at allies of diversity and inclusion. We're going to have Dr. Miles Zackheim from Optometrics in California, Sue Downs from My Eye Doctor, Neil Blumenthal, co-owner of Warby Parker, and Julie Gagosha, the owner of Gagosha Opti in Los Angeles. So looking forward to that discussion next week, Wednesday at 12:15. We want to thank all of our panelists. Thank you again, Jim. Thank you, Gary, for being here. Thank you all for who came and took time out of your schedules to be here today. Shout out to you too, Jamie Shire. I see you're still on here with us. Really appreciate it. And actually, I want to we can unmute Jamie for a minute. I want to give a shout out to Jamie. I saw the big news in V-Mail today. Congratulations to eyewear for being inducted into the Small Business Hall of Fame of Westchester County. So if you still have your smoothie or coffee, you can raise a glass to eyewear for that amazing accomplishment. So Jamie, good job.
Appreciate it. It's a team effort, as always. Like we're talking about here, it takes a team for all of us, and I have an incredible team as well, including Jimmy and others who are on this call and a lot that are off this call. But thank you for recognizing us. We love being part of this industry. You guys are doing a great job with these Eye to Eye series. Thank you for continuing this, especially during this time. So this is awesome. Keep them going.
Thank you, and thank you for your support, Jamie. You get a chance to read that article. It's in today's V-Mail on eyewear. So again, I want to thank you all for being here. Join us again next week and every single Wednesday at 12:15. We are signing off. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.